Welcome back. We're live.
Hey everyone.
Hey Roy, what's up?
Hey. Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. So guys, we have a special edition of the live today. Roy's here, Prince is here off camera as well, and myself. So we are going to talk about the Bitcoin halving, which is coming very soon this month. So Roy is going to explain to you guys everything about the Bitcoin halving. You can ask all your questions in the chat if you've got any questions about that. If your question is not about the halving, Prince is going to take care of you in the chat anyway. But yeah, we hope you learn tons of stuff about the halving. And yeah, Roy, take it away.
Yeah, all right. So let me go ahead and scoot on over. Hey everyone. So before we actually get started today, we at Ledger are actually having a promotion to kind of celebrate the Bitcoin halving. So Prince is in just a moment going to share the link to the page for that. And what it's basically going to come down to is you'll get a $40 gift card if you're getting a Ledger Nano X plus Ledger Recover pack, $10 gift card when it comes down to the Crypto Zeus, 20 for the Ledger Nano S plus, 30 for the Ledger Nano X, and if you're getting the pack with the Ledger Nano S plus and the Ledger Nano X, that would be a $50 gift card. Now, with that out of the way, let's actually talk a little bit about the Bitcoin halving. Now, before we're going to get into that, we should probably first actually get a little bit into the history of Bitcoin in general. So the Bitcoin halving is actually something that was always going to be part of Bitcoin. It was already in what we call the white paper of Bitcoin. So a white paper is essentially a document that details how a certain cryptocurrency or project would basically work. Now, in Bitcoin's case, this was published on the 31st of October, 2008, and that was, of course, done by Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto is a pseudonym. We don't know if it's one person, we don't know if it's a group, and to this day, we still have no idea who Satoshi Nakamoto actually is. So one of the greatest mysteries, honestly, that we have right now. The fun part is we've had so many different theories. As a matter of fact, just this week, there was another theory that came out, and yeah, still no idea. Now, that was the white paper. Bitcoin actually went live on the 3rd of January, 2009. This was an event that we also call the creation of the Genesis block. So the Genesis block is essentially the very first block of a blockchain. So this was the very first block of the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, with that creation of the Genesis block, not only did we have the very first cryptocurrency ever launched, but we also got the very first application of blockchain technology, because Bitcoin actually was the pioneer of blockchain technology. A fun little fact about the Genesis block, though. So, with Bitcoin, whenever a block is created, a miner would actually do work. We'll get into that in just a moment. And there's a reward for that miner as well. In the beginning, this was 50 Bitcoin. However, the entity that mined the Genesis block, which is very, very likely to be Satoshi Nakamoto themselves, they actually will not have access to that reward. There's a bit of bug in the code that does not allow for the 50 Bitcoin from the Genesis block reward to be spent. So that one's actually kind of locked forever. Yeah, kind of interesting.
There'll never be 21 million Bitcoin in circulation, at least.
That is correct. So this 50 Bitcoin is basically just locked forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yep. Now, that being said, that's of course not the only part of Bitcoin history. For example, in 2010, we saw the very first purchase of goods with Bitcoin. And it's kind of a funny story, really, because it was a guy that bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. Still celebrated today as the Bitcoin Pizza Day. And yeah, they're the most expensive pizzas in the world as a result. Also in 2011, we saw Bitcoin actually, for the first time, getting the parity with the US dollar, meaning 1 Bitcoin or $1. I mean, nowadays we can only dream of that, you know, but that was actually a big breakthrough back in the day. But unfortunately, not all events in Bitcoin history were positive. So we have seen a lot of exchanges, for example, getting hacked. And the most infamous one when we're looking at Bitcoin was Mt. Gox back in February of 2014. Now, I'm saying February of 2014, but it was moreover an event across an elongated amount of time. Now, in that hack, a grand total of 850,000 Bitcoin was actually stolen.
That's a lot.
That's an insane amount, absolutely. Now, out of that, thankfully, 200,000 was actually recovered. But 650,000 Bitcoin is still gone, taken. And it's also, if I'm remembering this correctly, not spent to this day. And it's also kind of a reminder of why you need to own your own private key, because if a centralized exchange, we're also more recently looking at FTX, if they get hacked, if they go down, they had your crypto, well, guess what? It's gone. So that's kind of where we come in. Now, that being said, there has still been a lot of development and also updates and upgrades when we're looking at Bitcoin as well. One of the most famous one is back in 2017. At that point, we had what we call the SegWit upgrade. And this was actually a point of contention back in the day. So SegWit basically created a new address format, but also a new way of basically reducing the size of transactions. However, there was another team that didn't agree with this direction and instead thought that the Bitcoin block size needed to be bigger so that they could accommodate for more transactions. From here, we actually got a split. We had one team that decided, you know what, we're going to implement that upgrade for SegWit, and that's what we nowadays know as Bitcoin. The team that was instead on the block size being increased, that was Bitcoin Cash. So at that point, Bitcoin Cash started existing. Now, if before the SegWit upgrade, which we also call a fork, if you had one Bitcoin at that point, after the upgrade, you would have had one Bitcoin and one Bitcoin Cash as well.
Yeah, true. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even Bitcoin Cash went under a fork as well between the BSV team, and so there were forks after forks.
Correct, and after that you also had Bitcoin Cash ABC, and I think it was just called Bitcoin Cash. There have been many forks. Yeah. However, it's true that after that, Bitcoin itself hasn't forked as much anymore.
Yep.
I mean, it's still forked in the form of like upgrades, but not contentious ones.
True.
Yeah, correct. Now, that's of course not the only kind of interesting part when we're looking at Bitcoin history. The other part is, of course, the price evolution. Back in 2017, 2018, kind of the end of 2017 to the beginning of 2018, we saw a huge new all-time high. Dan, it's on the stream. All right. So we saw a new... Okay. We saw a new all-time high, which was about 20-ish thousand US dollars at the time in 2017, 2018. Now, in 2021, we saw yet again a new all-time high, which was at roughly 68-ish $1,000. And now, of course, recently we have again seen a brand new all-time high where we've reached roughly 73,000, and we're still pretty close to it. So who knows? We might break it again very soon. Not financial advice, by the way. But yeah, that's a little bit about Bitcoin's history. Now let's also look a little bit about how Bitcoin actually works under the hood. So more on the technical part. That's also where the halving is going to start coming in as well. Now, Bitcoin uses a consensus mechanism that we call proof of work. Consensus mechanism is a fancy way of basically just saying, hey guys, we're all nodes and we need to somehow agree on how we're going to add new blocks to the blockchain. Now, in Bitcoin's case, we're using the proof of work consensus. What that means is if you want to be the one to create the next block for Bitcoin, you need to actually do a lot of work, a lot of processing work, and solve a very difficult cryptographic puzzle. The first that's able to solve that puzzle and do the work for it will be the one that can create the next Bitcoin block. Now, for all of that work, they're also going to get rewarded. That's also why we call it proof of work. You've done the work, you're getting the reward. Now, this reward is called the block reward. If you create a Bitcoin block, you'll also get rewarded for it. Way in the beginning, this was 50 Bitcoin, but it's gotten a lot lower. We'll talk about the evolution of that in just a second as well. Another thing to keep in mind is that Bitcoin is hard-coded to only have a maximum of 21 million Bitcoin. There should never be able to be more than 21 million Bitcoin. The way that we make sure that it's not consistently generating more and more and more and more is via that halving. Now, there might be a maximum of 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist, but that doesn't mean it's the amount that's in circulation. As a matter of fact, a lot of Bitcoin is not in circulation anymore. You might be thinking, okay, how's that even possible? People that lost access to the private keys, people that have unfortunately misplaced their recovery phrase, for example, exchanges that have gotten hacked. There are a lot of ways, unfortunately, that a lot of Bitcoin is lost, and it's currently estimated that roughly 4 to 5 million Bitcoin is taken out of circulation and not accessible anymore.
And when will the last Bitcoin be mined, exactly?
So that's an excellent question, and for that, we'll actually go ahead into the next part of the Bitcoin halving part, which is actually how the halving works.
Okay.
So before we actually start talking about it, there is a little bit of a misconception. A lot of people tend to call Bitcoin deflationary, and that's technically not true. Deflationary would mean there's consistently going to be less Bitcoin that exists. But that's not true. New Bitcoins are created. Instead, Bitcoin is what we call disinflationary, meaning we're starting at a higher inflation, but it's going to go lower and lower and lower. There's still an inflation, but less and less. Now, for Bitcoin, the way that they guarantee that is through those halvings. So we started with block rewards of 50 Bitcoin per block. Now, a block is created roughly every 10 minutes. We'll get back to that in a moment, because there is a bit more that meets the eye there. But that means roughly every 10 minutes, 50 Bitcoin was created back in the beginning. However, roughly every 4 years, that amount gets cut in half, hence the name, the Bitcoin halving. So after roughly 4 years, actually a little bit less in this case, November 2012, we had the first halving. So we went from 50 Bitcoin for the reward to 25 Bitcoin. Roughly 4 years later, July 2016, next halving happened. 12.5 Bitcoin per block created. After that, May 2020, which is where we are right now, 6.25 Bitcoin per Bitcoin block created. And with the upcoming halving, which is currently estimated for the 20th of April, that is, by the way, subject to change, but that all depends on how quickly the next blocks are created. But currently estimated 20th of April, 2024, of course, we're going to have the next halving, and we're going to go down to a block reward of 3.125 Bitcoin. So, to get back to your question, at some point, there is no longer going to be a block reward. This is currently estimated to be in 2140. Now, unfortunately, I don't expect to be around anymore at that point. I mean, who knows? Future technology, we'll never know. But yeah, I don't expect it. But in 2140, there's no longer going to be a block reward. Instead, a miner would at that point only get rewards from transaction fees. Something that I actually skipped over previously. If you create a block, you'll get the block reward, but also the fees for all the transactions that are within the block. So that's also a part of the reward that the miner also gets. After 2140, this is only going to be the transaction fees. And by the way, when we're talking about transaction fees, we're talking about normal Bitcoin transactions, so I'm sending Bitcoin to someone else, but this also includes ordinals, for example. So the NFTs or the tokens on Bitcoin.
And ordinals are generating a lot of transaction fees these days.
Especially nowadays, yeah. They're, as a matter of fact, the big spikes that we've had recently in Bitcoin transaction fees were most commonly actually created because of ordinals.
Okay, so there is hope that in 2140, like in a long time, when there is no more block rewards, the last Bitcoin has been mined, the miners will stick around because the transaction fees will be enough for them to
Exactly.
be compensated, right?
Yes, exactly. And especially, even if we look nowadays with price of Bitcoin, we've seen how much it can spike sometimes, and who knows where it's going to be in 2140. So it might actually be very rewarding still.
Okay,
Yep.
Makes sense.
All right. Now, we did also previously allude to the block time. So we said that blocks are created roughly every 10 minutes for Bitcoin. That's on average, and that's a very, very important distinction to make, actually, because this amount of time can vastly differ, and it all has to do with the processing power currently required to create those blocks. Now, from sometimes it might be 10 minutes, perfectly average. Other times it might be only 10 seconds. Other times it can be hours. Now, if we look at this page right here, you can see that the last block took about 11 minutes. So that's pretty average. But look at the ones after it. 70 minutes ago, that means there was only 5-6-ish minutes between those two blocks. The one after it, roughly 4 minutes. And the one after that again, 10 minutes. So you can see right here, there is discrepancy between the amount of time that a block would take to be created. And this all has to do with how much processing power is currently in the network. The more, the quicker it could go. But also a second part, which is the mining difficulty. The mining difficulty comes down to that Bitcoin nodes would notice, hey, look, right now we have a huge amount of processing power. We need to somehow compensate for that and kind of get back to that average of 10 minutes per block. So what they do is make that puzzle to solve and to be able to create the next block more difficult. And that should balance it out again. This could also happen the other way around. We have less processing power, blocks are taking too long to be created. We'll adjust the difficulty to compensate for that.
And we can see this here on this page, right? We can see that the next difficulty adjustment will happen in 31 hours.
Yep.
Currently, the average time is 9.7 minutes, so we are under the 10 minutes.
Yep.
So the difficulty will adjust up, right? It will become more difficult to mine in 31 hours, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just to make sure that we kind of keep that roughly 10-ish minutes balance. Yep.
Yeah. So can we expect that it will take longer to send transaction in 31 hours when the difficulty adjusts?
That is actually likely. So in that case, when the difficulty goes higher, it might cause the next block to take a little bit longer because it will require more processing power to create a block.
Until the miners bring more processing power online to mine
or
faster.
The difficulty adjusts to being lower again. One of the two.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, another part that comes with these blocks being created is network confirmations. And this is especially important when you're setting your Bitcoin to an exchange. So, the network confirmations or block confirmations is something that you can also see on a block explorer. When you send Bitcoin, you're going to see the amount of confirmations that one of your transactions might have had. Now, if you see 3 confirmations, what that comes down to is this is the amount of blocks that have been created after your transaction. So, in other words, there are now your transaction was in this block 1, 2, 3. For exchanges, it's actually crucial because they might only credit your Bitcoin after a certain amount of confirmations. So here, for example, you can see that 1 confirmation took place. That means it's in 1 block. For some exchanges, you may need 2, you may need 10. It really depends per exchange. Keep in mind, it all has to do with how often those blocks are created. If you're very unlucky, it could take 2 hours for the next block to be created. in that case, it doesn't even matter what kind of transaction fee you're paying. Even if your transaction has a very high fee attached to it, well, you do need to wait until the next blocks are created. And that's, unfortunately, in the hands of the miners. You cannot actually do anything related to that. So that's something to consider if you're ever wondering, why is it taking so long for this to get confirmed? Just take a look at the current block time. It'll
Very
help.
important.
Yeah.
And maybe you reach out to your exchange as well and ask how many confirmation they want before they can actually create the funds. Because some exchanges, as you said, they will require one confirmation. I think Binance does that. But other exchanges, they might require 6 confirmation. And that could take a lot of time, depending on...
Even with the average 6 times 10, that's an hour.
Yeah.
So it can really vary. So most exchanges do tend to mention this, but otherwise you could always contact them in advance and make sure about that beforehand.
Yeah. So the high transaction is just to make sure that you get in the next block or to make it more likely.
Exactly.
But how fast that block will be confirmed and build upon it, that's
out of your hands. That's purely in the hands of the miners.
Okay,
exactly.
Sense,
yeah. Now we're at roughly the halfway point. So I'd like to just quickly give a reminder that to kind of celebrate the halving, we at Ledger do currently have a ongoing promotion. And this, Prinja will actually put the link in the chat in just a second. And it's going to come down to getting a $40 gift card if you're getting the Ledger Nano X Plus Ledger Recover bundle, $10 gift card if you're getting the crypto tag Zeus, $20 for the Ledger Nano S Plus, $30 for the Ledger Nano X, and $50 gift card if you're going to get the bundle of the Ledger Nano X and the Ledger Nano S Plus, which we also call the Ledger Nano Duo. Now, a question that we do get sometimes is, all right, halving's coming up. What do I, as a Ledger user, need to do? And fortunately, the answer is very simple. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
You actually have to do absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, even we at Ledger need to do absolutely nothing.
Yep.
All of these changes, the halving is taking place on the Bitcoin blockchain. It is not some kind of big fork that we need to adjust our network for, or our explorers, I should say. So we actually don't have any work with it. There is one potential side effect, however. See, right now, we're talking about the halving. A lot of media is actually talking about the halving, and that might cause a lot more people getting interested in Bitcoin and potentially making transactions, clogging up the network.
Yeah.
That could that could actually have a spike in fees as a consequence. So that is a possibility, not a guarantee, but a possibility. And who knows, it might even affect the price, ? Not financial advice.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Historically, the price has gone up after halvings, but who knows?
I have seen it gone down before as well.
There you go.
So it can really go both ways.
Watch out.
It's the traditional meme. The price can go up or down.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, on a more serious note, however, something that we do really want to warn everyone about. Whenever a halving occurs, this also happened last time in 2020, we see a huge spike in the amount of scams. It's very simple. Halving brings a lot of attention, brings a lot of new people, and these scammers are basically trying to target these new people. Please, don't fall for it. Don't trust this. Hey, Elon Musk is celebrating the Bitcoin halving or anything like that. Just never, ever share your 24-word recovery phrase, and never, ever send your Bitcoin to someone else promising to send you more. That's an absolute scam. Don't fall for it. Your 24-word recovery phrase should never be entered on the computer. It should never be sent to a Ledger employee, because we'll never ask for it, actually.
Yeah.
The only place that it should be is on a physical piece of paper or steel backup like the crypto tag Zeus. And it should only ever be entered after that on a legitimate Ledger hardware wallet device, not on anything that can connect to the internet.
So if you get an email saying, hey, you need to upgrade your Ledger accounts because of the halving, It's a scam, right?
Classic phishing. Yeah, that is a scam. So never trust those kind of emails. Again, Ledger will never ask you to enter your 24-word recovery phrase anywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So be careful, guys. Don't share your phrase.
Yeah, exactly.
If you do, the person who gets the phrase will be able to access your accounts.
Yep. And with that, basically just take all of your crypto.
Yeah. They don't even need the device, right? Just the phrase. That's the only thing they need. So just keep that in mind.
Exactly. The moment that you've shared your 24-word recovery phrase, it's just game over. You will lose everything.
Okay. On this happy note.
On this happy note, we did also want to provide a few little tips and tricks when it comes down to Bitcoin transactions, and most notably the transaction fees for Bitcoin. Now, there are 3 tips that we actually have that are relating to the transaction fee, and that is first off regarding network congestion. So network congestion is one of those things that you can't really influence. Is a bit out of your control. When the Bitcoin blockchain is being used more, the fees are going to go higher. However, something that we have noticed is not always going to be the case, but on average, the transaction fees tend to be a little bit lower in the morning on Saturday and Sunday GMT time zone. That's just because, quite simply, either people were sleeping or they're just starting up their weekends. They're not really looking at crypto as much, so it tends to be a bit calmer on the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's a little tip. It's not a guarantee, but it might help you save a little bit on fees. Another part, which is absolutely in your control, is the amount of U2XOs that your transaction is using. This one's going to require a little bit of explaining. So a U2XO basically comes down to a transaction that you previously received. For example, if Dan right here is going to send me 0.1 Bitcoin, which would be very generous, I would have received one U2XO with a value of 0.1 Bitcoin. Now, at some point in the future, I'm going to have to spend that 0.1 Bitcoin in full. There is no spending it halfways. You need to spend it in full. Now, the way that Bitcoin works is if you're using fewer U2XOs to create your transaction, you'll also be paying lesser fees. For example, let's say Dan has sent me 0.1 Bitcoin 10 times. Extremely generous, a full Bitcoin. Thank you, man. But in that case, I have 10 different U2XOs, all with a value of 0.1 Bitcoin. Now, if I want to send 0.6 Bitcoin, that means I need to use 6 U2XOs. That will be more expensive to send versus a single U2XO of 0.6 Bitcoin. You might be thinking, why? Well, each U2XO contains data, and that means the more data that you're using, the more fees you'll be paying. So less U2XOs means lower fees. In Ledger Live, we actually do have a feature that's called coin control. So when you're actually trying to send Bitcoin, you'll have to quickly grab an address. There we go. So we're just going to show you how to use that. Paste the address. And once you're here, you click on advanced. Let me get that paper out the way. And there's the coin control feature right here. If you click on it, you can actually select or deselect U2XOs manually. You can also see the coin strategy. And right now, on default, it's oldest coin first. But you also can see right there the minimize fees option. Minimize fees comes down to Ledger Live is going to try to select the least amount of U2XOs for you. Do keep in mind, at some point in the future, you may need to use those small U2XOs. But if right now the network congestion is very high, that's very useful to use. So just a little tip right there.
So this account, only one UTXO, right?
Yep, that is only UTXO with a value of 0.0008 Bitcoin. Exactly.
I'm getting there. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right. Now there's one last thing, and that one is again in your control, but a little bit simpler. Address formats. So with Bitcoin, we have 4 different address formats. That would be legacy, SegWit, native SegWit, and Taproot. The way it works is basically the newer, the better. And I just went from oldest to newest. So Taproot is the newest, legacy is the oldest. Excuse me, I'm just going to have to cough. There we go. Got that out of my system. So the newer the address format, the better. The reason why is actually relatively simple. I'm gonna have to cough again. Sorry, I'm having a great day.
It's a halving allergy.
Yeah, I didn't know I was allergic to that. I thought I was excited about it instead. So the reason why these new address formats actually work a bit better is related to the fact that they're optimizing the transactions. So a SegWit transaction is going to have less data than legacy. Wow, I'm having a spell here. Good timing. Glad I'm not live or anything. So that just means that because there's less data, you're paying Satoshi per byte. So less data is less that you need to spend. Do keep in mind between native SegWit and Taproot, there is less difference, but between legacy and native SegWit, for example, huge difference. So by default, Ledger Live would give you a native SegWit address, but you do actually have the button to select other address formats as well. Now keep in mind, Taproot is not yet accepted by all exchanges that exist. And wow. And some exchanges actually no longer accept legacy as well. So those are two things to consider.
So if you want to be on the safe side, you just stick with native SegWit account.
Native SegWit tends to be the most adopted. Exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. What else? What else do we have? That was a very complete session. Do you have any other tips or what else do you have for us?
That is actually kind of it. And at this point, we did actually want to open the floor to all of you as well. So if you actually have any questions relating to Bitcoin, to the Bitcoin halving, this is your time. So please don't hesitate to ask them.
You can also ask any questions that you want. So we're back to normal stream, guys. We hope that you liked the session about the halving. Feel free to rewatch the replay if you missed the beginning. So it's about 30 minutes. Now we're back to a normal stream. So if you guys have any questions about crypto, ledger, anything like that, this is the moment. So also just keep in mind that there is an offer going on the Ledger store. Basically, if you buy devices, some accessories like the CryptoTag Zeus, you will get a physical card with your order to redeem some Bitcoin. So yeah, just to stay thematic with the Bitcoin halving, so you can get some free Bitcoin with your orders. And there is quite a lot of options here on the store. So yeah, go for it. The promotion is going to last until April 16th,
I believe.
I think, yeah. So it's about a week, right? The halving, it's going to happen on April 20th.
Yep.
But the promotion finishes before the actual halving, so keep that in mind, okay? Or until the supplies last. So, if you need to buy a device for yourself as a backup or for someone you love or as a gift, then it's the right time to do it. Cool.
All right.
So yeah, we do have actual questions. So the first one is from, and just to hammer the point, John. So John Morris, Prince answered that question, but you got an email from Ledger saying that you need to activate mandatory 2FA. That would be a scam, right?
That's a scam. So keep in mind, Ledger devices actually are already a form of 2FA. There's no such thing as additional 2FA that you'd need. So yeah, these kind of emails, they are absolutely scams. Never, ever, ever give up your 24-word recovery phrase, because that's what they're going to be targeting.
Okay, cool. So then we've got a question from Vijanek. Veganic, sorry. Will Ledger make a BTC-only device?
So that has been a topic in the past. As it currently stands, I do not believe that is the case. Now, do keep in mind, it is, of course, your choice on whatever application you're going to install on your Ledger device. So you can effectively turn a Ledger device into a Bitcoin-only device by simply only installing the Bitcoin app. That will only generate private keys related to Bitcoin. So that would be an option. Also keep in mind the way that we create apps for ledger devices is that apps cannot interact with each other actually. So if you have a Bitcoin app and an Ethereum app installed, they cannot interact with each other, meaning the Ethereum app would never have access to the private keys of Bitcoin as a result. So we separate that. It's not what we call a monolithic firmware.
So you don't get like extra security by just having the Bitcoin app on your device, just to be clear. You can just have the Bitcoin app on your device if you want it, but yeah, you will get the feeling that you're getting a Bitcoin only device, but security wise, it doesn't really matter if you just have the Bitcoin app or 5 different apps on the device. But if you want a dedicated device just for Bitcoin, that might be a good option as well. Some people like to do this, have one device for each asset, which
correct.
Yeah, why not? Next question from Belis Amlap. I think that's the conversation with Pringe, so we'll skip that one. Baby, hello baby. Any warnings you can give about NanoX battery safety, other than obvious stuff like not to drop it in water? Do I need to charge it often? Is it allowed on airplanes and so on?
It's allowed on airplanes. That kind of depends on what kind of regulations the company has.
I think, generally, like I've traveled with a NanoX in the past, but you have to travel in cabin. Like you can't put it in cargo.
Lithium battery.
Because it's a lithium battery, so you have to keep it with you. But I wouldn't be surprised if some air companies will not allow it just because it's a lithium battery. But typically, if you keep it with you with the cabin luggage, you should be fine.
Yep. And relating to battery lifetime, I believe it was recommended to still periodically use your device and actually charge it as well, because extensive times of not using the devices could have a negative impact on the battery.
100%. It's like a phone, guys. It's
exactly.
Like those kind of batteries, they don't like being completely discharged, completely drained, right? So you have to use it quite often. Otherwise, if you just leave it in a drawer and never touch it, there's a chance that the battery will just die. It's recommended. Like the NanoX device is really recommended for frequent usage. If you are planning on doing cold storage, then you might as well get an NanoS Plus. That's my mental frame at least.
And especially if you're looking at long-term storage, I personally would say getting a steel backup might be a good option as well. So right now, we do actually have the CryptoTag Zeus with that $10 gift card. So not a bad time for it, but if you're a long-time holder, especially if you're having a pretty decent amount of crypto, it's not a bad investment to consider.
Definitely, guys. So device plus CryptoTag Zeus, and if you really want to beef up the security, you add like a passphrase, and you'll be protected against most attacks, unless of course if you give someone your recovery phrase and your passphrase. But this setup is really solid, and we strongly recommend the CryptoTag Zeus. There is a reason for it. It's expensive, more expensive than other solutions, but the design of the Zeus is actually really good. It's just one big piece of titanium. Two pieces.
You close them after. Yeah.
But the piece that matter, the one with the recovery phrase information, that one is just one solid piece, and it's the design that works the best for storing information. And protecting a recovery phrase. So.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I remember Jameson Lopp had a pretty interesting, I think it was a Medium article, where he basically broke down different kind of metal backups. And I remember the CryptoTag Zeus did really, really well in that one.
Yeah, very well. So it's a very good storage solution. So just a good time to grab one. So next question is from... So Baby was
That was the question.
That was the question.
We've already... Yeah,
so we answered that.
I still have an older Ledger Nano S, and my current PC only has USB-C. So, John, good point, actually. So you can still use your older Ledger Nano S. That's totally fine. But you need to make sure that you get a USB cable that has a micro USB slot for the Ledger Nano S side and a USB-C slot on the other end of the cable to connect to your computer. Now, on our website, we do actually sell something called the OTG cable kit. It stands for on the go. And you could actually purchase that. It has a data transferring cable that is micro USB to USB-C as well.
Okay, great. YT saying hi, so hi YT, like he said, he's a regular. Hope you're doing well, mate. Good to see you again. Next is from Osa Rodion, JO. Okay, JO. Please, is Ledger working now with Solana blockchain tokens?
So they are currently not supported in Ledger Live, unfortunately. However, you can absolutely use your Ledger device to manage SPL tokens, so Solana-based tokens. However, you'll need to use your Ledger device with a third-party wallet, such as Solflare or Phantom. That works like a charm. I actually have some myself, and it does work.
Okay. Is there a timeline for token integration?
Not to my knowledge, unfortunately. I wish I could have said more on that, but not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it's not happening, but I have no information on it.
Yeah. We are eagerly waiting for this as well. Like, I'd like it to be on Ledger Live ASAP. So, Veganic, how long will Ledger device batteries last and can they be replaced when dead? Good question.
That's an excellent question. So, I believe the estimated, it's not a guaranteed, but the estimated time was 5 years.
Yeah, and
But do keep in mind that there is a warranty. So according to European laws, I believe it's 2 years. And if within that time your battery would be defective, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll gladly take a look at potentially replacing it.
Yeah. Again, like we talked about it like 5 minutes ago, but the battery is really, the battery lifespan is really a function of how you treat the battery.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, like try to use your device often, make sure like it doesn't completely discharge. You want to use it like you use your phone. Like you will never like keep your phone drained for a long period of time. It's a bit the same thing for the Nano X, right? The Nano X like to be used, unlike the Nano S Plus, which doesn't have a battery. Yeah, and the next question, can they be replaced when dead? We don't offer this service.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it unless you really know what you're doing, and even if you do, before you do it, just make sure you have a backup of your recovery phrase. You might want to do a recovery check to make sure the recovery phrase is correctly backed up. And it's even better to have a backup device as well before you go ahead and trying to do it yourself, repair the device, because if something goes wrong, that will void the warranty as well. So keep that in mind.
Yep, exactly. And something maybe to add there as well about the recovery check. This is an app that you can install on your Ledger device where you could enter your recovery phrase in your Ledger device, as always, never on a computer or anything like that. So it's on your Ledger device that you would actually enter it, and your Ledger device compares with what's currently stored, and it will simply tell you correct or incorrect. For security reasons, it's not going to tell you where it might be incorrect, but that's the way that you can check it. Also, another thing is, if the battery is dead, keep in mind you can still use your Ledger Nano X.
Yeah.
It's just going to have to be via cable at that point.
Yeah, it's not going to affect security at all. It's just like you'll
Yep.
you'll lose a little bit of convenience of having, the battery. That's all.
Correct.
Veganic was also asking, can airport X-ray machines damage the Ledger device? Personally, like I've gone through airport security like multiple times with a device. It's never affected the device.
Same.
Yeah.
I've flown many times with my Ledger device, and never has had any issue. I think theoretically there's a chance, but it's extremely unlikely. But again, this is also not my expertise to be perfectly transparent, but to my knowledge, not really.
Yeah, I don't think X-rays are powerful enough to like knock off like some,
like bit rot or something.
Yeah, or like damage the device. I would warn you against traveling with a metal seat storage because that might get detected by airport security, and then someone might go and reach into your bag and start like looking at it. So you don't necessarily want that. If you have to travel with a recovery phrase, I would rather recommend you to travel with a paper version, not with that.
Even that I would not recommend, because someone just has to find it and it's over.
Yeah, just put a passphrase on your accounts before you travel, I would say.
Yeah,
If
good
you
idea.
really have to, paper is the way, because metal, if that gets detected, especially if it has like the form of the other metal seed storage we have, the one that
Oh,
looks
the
like a
capsule.
tube. Yeah, the capsule, it looks suspicious on X-ray. I think like it's
Yeah, they'll probably take a look. And the problem is, the moment they open it, all the discs are gonna go flying everywhere, and yeah, your backup is done.
Yeah, totally. Next question from Leo. Welcome back, Leo. How's it going, mate? Do you have news on Tron staking directly in Ledger Live?
I believe that is currently being looked into. So we've had it already in the past, but since Tron Staking 2.0 was released, unfortunately that broke compatibility. I believe this is being looked into. No promises, but I think that should be coming again at some point. But again, nothing I can promise. For now, however, you can definitely use your Ledger device with TronScan in the meantime.
Yeah, and baby, yeah, you're right. Like the airport lady might memorize the 24 words.
Yeah, that is a possibility. Absolutely.
A lot of airport staff might not necessarily know what they're looking at, but some people might. And it's possible that, if they're shady, they might take your recovery phrase for inspection or whatever, to backroom and actually take a picture of it.
Yep.
And then drain your funds. I mean, this is like a bit tinfoil, but it can happen. And you want to be sure that they don't get into this situation.
Ooh, the next one's fun. So Bellis is saying, I don't only have Solana, but also other cryptocurrencies. And I can tell you which out of those you can store via or manage via Ledger Live. So Atom, ICP, GRT if you're meaning the ERC20 version, Polkadot, Filecoin, Matic, and Injective can all be managed directly in Ledger Live. So you can actually add an account for that. For data, we actually have a separate app that you can use with a third-party wallet. Illuvium, I'll have to be honest, that's the only one where I cannot give you an answer because I'm not familiar enough with it. Maybe you have to know?
No. I
Okay.
think Prince, you're on the case, right? Like,
Yeah, between these not able to install the apps. Not network error.
network error. Okay.
Maybe he's using a VPN, I guess.
It could be VPN related, could potentially be geo-blocking or your internet provider blocking us. Can be a few different reasons.
Try on your phone,
Yeah.
using your phone as a hotspot. Did you share the tip?
Mhm. Yeah,
That you can try that. Yeah, use your phone as a hotspot and try to connect that way and download the app. That could work potentially.
you can also download the Ledger Live mobile app.
Yeah. Download Ledger Live on your mobile. Yeah, there's many ways to try to go around that, but if it's some hard restriction that your government has placed on, this kind of traffic, then it's going to be difficult.
And about that, something that's often overlooked is that Android devices can actually be used with the Ledger Nano S and Ledger Nano S Plus as well. This can be done via a USB cable.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, not possible via iPhones.
Yep. So next question. Ijabina, has there occurred any issue for Kadena in Ledger Live, or should have been launched a week ago? No,
Not in Ledger Live, no.
Kadena is not supported in Ledger Live. Ijabina, like you have to use a third-party wallet. Can't remember the name of the top, but
I'm guessing Polkadot.js since it is a parachain?
No.
Talisman.
Or Talisman could be as well.
Kadena? No.
No.
It is a parachain, no?
No.
Kadena transfer.
Yeah, Kadena transfer. Yeah,
Okay.
it's its own network. So yeah, we have documentation on the Help Center actually. You can check that out. But yeah, it's not coming in Ledger Live anytime soon. Use Kadena transfer. Go into the Help Center.
I linked it.
Prince is going to drop the link. Just follow the steps, and that's perfectly safe to use a third-party wallet with your device, right? It's just like using Ledger Live. It's just as safe. But yeah. Okay, next. So Bellis, we've got logs. So you can't share logs like this. You'll need to add the logs to your ticket.
It's provided in the-
Okay.
The airport later, we talked about that, yeah.
Yes.
So John's already found the cable, good.
I don't see USB A to. Okay.
Yeah, he seems to have found it afterwards.
Okay.
Just two messages below.
Veganic. Damn, never thought of. Oh yeah, the airport security thing.
If you're moving country, you need to destroy your metal backup and carry a paper copy. Ha! So if you're moving country, hopefully by car, I guess. It's true that there is a potential risk with bringing your recovery phrase in that. So I would perhaps then recommend just always carrying it on your person instead.
Yeah. Yeah, carry with you 100% cabin luggage or like on your person directly. If it's a piece of paper, that's fine. Even if it's a metal storage, I mean, you know, yes, there's a chance that someone might look at it, but what you can do is you can add a passphrase. So just to be clear, when I was mentioning passphrase, a passphrase is an optional security feature that you can add on top of the recovery phrase. So it's basically you select the 25th word and you create secret accounts. And so that's what I meant by passphrase. And the cool thing about passphrase is that even if someone gets your 24 words, they will not be able to access your secret accounts if they don't have the passphrase and the 24 words. So that's one way to protect yourself against people like accessing the recovery phrase for whatever reason at the airport, for example. But yeah, if you can avoid traveling with the recovery phrase, that's even better. But in some situation, you have to. I've done it before. It was fine, but yeah.
Yeah, a passphrase is always such a fascinating topic, I feel.
Yeah.
So if you're curious about a passphrase, I would highly recommend doing some more research into it, because there are some risks to consider with it. Because, for example, with a recovery phrase, there's no such thing as an invalid passphrase. For a recovery phrase, there is, meaning if you made a spelling error somewhere in your recovery phrase, you'll be notified of it. If you make a spelling error in the passphrase, no, you're never going to find it. So we're actually just going to send a Help Center article link in our chat where you can basically learn a bit more about how to use a passphrase. But yeah, very fascinating topic always.
It's an advanced feature. You don't have to use it. It's optional. But if you want to look up to, if you want to beef your security, then it's recommended. Especially if you've been using a larger device for a long time, I would suggest you look into passphrases.
Big fan.
Yeah, 100%. But a lot of airport questions today.
Fascinating topic, I guess. I mean, I agree.
So J.O., can I travel with my hard ledger device without challenges from airport security check?
That depends on the country, honestly, and on the airport security. So keep in mind, crypto is actually illegal in some countries. And if in those countries you're going to be traveling with a ledger device, that can be a problem. So always do a bit of research in that beforehand. Beyond that, I mean, I've never gone challenged by it.
No. Yeah.
Now, granted, that has mostly been for travel within Europe. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it depends on whether crypto is actually allowed in that country or not. Mostly, but yeah, vigilance is always recommended.
For sure, yeah. But most custom agents will not know what they're looking at. They might think it's just a USB key.
Exactly.
But as crypto is going mainstream, like more and more people will know that a ledger device is a hardware wallet for crypto. So yeah, it's going to become more conspicuous, I guess.
A little note maybe there is we do actually, excuse me, I'm going to have to cough. What a timing. We do actually sell some accessories as well, like the Ledger case and the Ledger pod that would make it a little bit more conspicuous. So that could potentially help a little bit. Yeah. Honestly, it's mostly just because it's a nice way to store it, I personally find. Mm-hmm. And of course, if it falls, it has some form of protection, but it does make it more conspicuous as well.
Yeah, so Bellis is following up on its issue with not being able to download apps. Bellis, you also want to make sure that your NanoS hasn't maxed the capacity for apps. Like the NanoS has a very small storage capacity for apps.
Correct.
If there are too many apps installed, you might need to uninstall some apps before you can install new ones.
Correct.
So just keep that in mind. And as Prince said, try Ledger Live Mobile. If you have an NOS, so if you have an Android device, just connect your device of a USB cable to an Android phone. Try to download the apps that way.
Yep.
Can you explain to that guy about swapping from BNBX to BNB?
To Tom.
He's already approved the transaction. Now he has to do another transaction.
So, is this for the swapping or the unstaking?
Unstaking BNBX to but like, since that is not working, we ask him to swap it.
Right.
So he did approve it, now he has to do second transaction.
Okay, so when you're trying to create a swap via DEX, so it's correct that unfortunately in Ledger Live right now, when you're using Stater for liquid staking BNB, the unstaking option in Ledger Live currently doesn't work. Via their own websites, and if you're using your Ledger device with a third-party wallet like MetaMask, it does work. But you can also additionally swap your XBNB into BNB. And for that, you can use Paraswap or 1inch. Do keep in mind, you will need to be signing 2 transactions in that case. The first is an approval. An approval basically comes down to, I'm giving access to that token to that particular platform. Once you've signed that transaction and it got confirmed, you'll need to sign a second transaction, which is the actual swap. So it is a 2-step process if you're trying to swap it.
Yeah, correct. Cool. Yeah, I was just checking 1inch, but it looks like you can. Yeah, that's
Yep.
what he's doing, I guess.
Yeah, and here it would be
And I guess
XBNB.
he's given approval to the Stater Labs, I guess he's tried to do it from the
Via Stater Labs. Okay.
So he has a 2.8 now.
So yeah, keep in mind, if you're unstaking via Stater Labs, there is actually an unstaking period, meaning you will have to wait a certain amount of time
Yeah.
until you can get access to your BNB.
And here as well, there is 2 transactions, right? There is an unstaking transaction that takes place, then there is an unstaking period, and then there is a withdrawal transaction.
Yeah.
So, you'll have to complete like 2 transactions, but it's a good workaround to use the website. This is also valid for most of the apps in the Discover section. Discover section is just here to provide like a convenient way to access those in Ledger Live and to ClearSign, but they also have like web equivalents that you can safely use with your Ledger device.
Yep.
Cool. And I guess maybe that will be the last question or comment, I guess. So Bellis, can't recommend Ledger, sorry to say, would appreciate any reparation. So yeah, if the device, so submit a ticket so we can take a look, because at this point,
You already did.
you
Okay.
did, okay. So
Then we'll be looking into
yeah,
it.
yeah. We'll try to find a solution for you. But again, like just to like try to use your phone as a hotspot and then connect your desktop. If you're using your Ledger on desktop, right? You use your phone as a hotspot and then you connect your computer to the internet via your phone. And then you connect your Ledger device to your computer and then you try to download the app that way. That's proven to work in some situations, but yeah, if not, we'll look at your ticket and we'll try our best to help you out.
All right.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Any last word of wisdom?
That. No, just one thing that we always like to end on is always make sure that you keep your 24-word recovery phrase secure. Never enter it online. Never share it with anyone. Never enter it on your computer, smartphone, or into any application. It really is the core part of keeping your crypto secure with a Ledger device. That being said, thank you all for joining.
Thanks, guys. We'll be in touch, Bellis. So yeah, don't lose hope. And thanks, Prince, for the assistance in the chat. Roy, good luck.
Yep,
And
thank you.
see you guys later. Thank you for attending.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.